So you want to be a race car driver. And I know what you're thinking. There's no way this is possible, but let me persuade you a little bit. So I want you to take a second, close your eyes, and just imagine. Can you feel it? I know you can, and I know how badly you want it too. So I'm going to show you how to get it. And it's not going to be easy either, but trust me when I say this, it's worth it.
Upside, he's in position, he's got it. And here comes Truex. They're going to close right to the 2 leaders. Coming to the line, clash together.
Now, who's going to be last on the brakes? Leclerc has that inside line. Through goes Hamilton. Unbelievable stuff. See if Turbo has anything up top. He gets a run off corner number 4. A drag race to the line. Tyler wins. What just happened?
Not been in this situation before. Joseph Newgarden around the outside of Penalty.
Wild. And they're racing.
Looking at the inside of one of the Corvettes there. That's the second, the number 4 of Tommy Milner.
Oh, Verhagen did a brilliant job to try to...
So, I kind of just want to clarify this before I start. I'm by no means an expert on any of this, really. I'm just making this to kind of share what I've learned over the course of my journey so far. And mind you, my dirt journey hasn't been very long. Started when I was about 13 or so. For context, I'm 21. And I'm making this because I also know that a lot of you guys too are either at the beginning of this whole ordeal, or you're very new to it, or you don't even think it's possible. So, just to give a little context, hi, my name's Nathan Goderick. Like I said before, I'm a dirt racer. I've been dirt racing for about 4 years now. I kind of started in drag racing, but that was a whole big, ordeal. But anyway, we kind of switched over to dirt. I started in a little 4-cylinder. We call it Pro 4s or mini stocks, whatever the heck you want to call it. Recently, I switched over to a Pro Mod, B Mod, whatever you want to call that too. I know they call it differently, but yeah, it's kind of the first big dirt car I've been racing in. So we've been working out the kinks with that, but the biggest thing, I'd say the highlight so far, is really when I got to go down to North Carolina earlier this spring to test an ARCA car for Rise Motorsports. They let me come down, drive their car at Hickory Motor Speedway, and that test really gave me the confidence to really hardcore pursue this. And, of course I was pursuing it before, but there was always the doubt in your head, like, this probably isn't gonna happen, and like it was a fun thing. Obviously you can still race locally, but never on the national scale. But now after that test, I really confirmed that I'm good enough. I can do it in terms of driving. Am I perfect? No, but do I have a lot to learn? Yes, but it's just, and I feel like a lot of you can be the same way. Obviously, now what I'm trying to do and what I'm currently doing is I'm, racing at the local level as much as possible, trying to get as much seat time as I can. And I've also been volunteering on the crew for Rise Motorsports as much as I can, especially when they're a bit closer to home, And throughout this whole process, I've actually gotten the opportunity to meet a lot of cool people. I've met Bobby Earnhardt. I got to work with him at Kansas this fall. I met Billy Venturini. I was able to go on a few shows and podcasts and things like that. I've been interviewed a few times now, so it definitely opened a lot of doors for me. And I by no means made it. I want to make that clear. I'm really proud of the progress I've made over the last few years, but I'm nowhere close, to what I want to do, or, where I want to be in the sport, and that's okay. I feel like slow progress is better than no progress. And for years, I just heard the phrase, the slogan of, just work hard, just do that, right? And people made it sound so simple, But for years, I struggled on to grasp like, okay, I know I need to work hard, but what do I need to work hard on? Because I was clueless. I had no clue, how to even like take a step into the sport. And before I go any further, I just need to emphasize, I'm not an expert. I'm still new to all this. But I feel like I've really grown to understand how the sport works more. And so I feel comfortable enough sharing the things I've learned over the last few years. So racing isn't like any other professional sport. In something like football, right? You go to high school, you play, you're good, you'll get a scholarship to go to college, and, if you're good there, you'll go to the NFL. Unfortunately, that isn't how the world of racing works. So, obviously, this list is very oversimplified, but here are kind of the three big ways you can get into racing. So, number one, of course, money. And I hate to say it, but unfortunately, the sport is very expensive. And so, you take a team who may be, financially in the gutter or may just need a lot of money, and all these teams need lots of money. But the point I'm trying to make is a lot of these teams will take anyone. I'm not going to mention any names, but with that whole, the checkbook is the most important thing, you see a lot of people in the sport who I would call either unqualified or undeserving of the seat they're in. You could be the literal reincarnation of Dale Earnhardt Sr., and if you don't have the money or the financial backing from either a sponsor, a big sponsor, or your own family, you're not getting into the sport. So that begs the question, but Nathan, I have no money, so what do I do? And that gets into my second point with brand, your own personal brand, more specifically. This is how, more than likely, if you do get into motorsports, this is going to be how. It's so important to be able to attract sponsors, even with your activities outside the track. Unfortunately, like our first point, that means there are going to be a lot of people who probably don't deserve the seats they're in. And number three, last but not least, talent. What you're able to do behind the wheel. Now, in any other sport, that would be the most important thing, but unfortunately, when it comes to racing and how expensive it is, that just isn't the case. It still is incredibly important, and if you want to go far in the sport, and you actually want to do well in the sport, obviously you still need to be good. But especially when it comes to just entering and getting in, it's probably the least important factor, unfortunately. There are a few programs that kind of contradict my last statement, like things like PT Autosport, like Rev Racing, things like that. Unfortunately, those programs are either incredibly hard to get into, or they're more focused on diversity and things of that nature, so you may not be able to get in due to certain criteria. So I'm gonna guess you're watching this video because you don't have the first thing, you probably don't have the second thing, and hell, you might not even have the third thing. I'm also gonna guess that you're around 16, maybe 22 or so you're probably in high school or maybe even college. And if you're not, that's okay too, but some of these tips and suggestions may not apply to you as much. So what can you start doing today? Well, the first thing I would recommend you start is building your racecraft. That could be kind of through two ways. You could either start rental karting, which can be a little pricey, but it's a lot of fun and it's a great way to learn car control, or how I recommend is the simulator. Buy a computer, buy a cheap sim rig, get on either Assetto Corsa or iRacing, and really start to try to learn car control and racing side by side with others. While this is a cheaper alternative than just going to the track and racing, it still is going to cost a bit of money. So another recommendation I have, and some of you aren't going to like this, especially if you're in the high school to college range, is to get a job.
This'll scare him.
Oh my gosh! A floating shopping list!
That way, you'll be able to fund your own entry point in the motorsport. And I wouldn't even almost call this an entry point. This is just a requirement. The next thing you can start doing today is building your brand. Start uploading on YouTube. Start posting videos on social media. Do what I'm doing right now. Brands want to ensure that their return on investment is going to be worthwhile. And when you start posting on social media, when you start posting content, things of that nature, it's just another thing to add on to why they should sponsor you and fund your dream. A big tip when it comes to this kind of stuff is you need to understand it's going to be bad at first. Everything you upload, you're going to feel like, wow, this is horrible. No one's going to like this, but you still need to upload it. because the only way you're going to learn how to make better content is to keep uploading. The next thing you can do is start volunteering. Go to your local track, volunteer to work at the track, volunteer to work with one of the small teams. I can assure you, these small, like, dirt racing teams, they will happily accept the help. Heck, you might get lucky enough and be able to work with a bigger team. Like, for example, me with Rise Motorsports. After our test, I've gotten tons of opportunities to come to the track with them, to help them on race day, things like that. Not only is this a super cool way to learn the industry, learn just about cars in general, but it's such an awesome opportunity to network. I've met up with people like Presley Sora, Braden Laster, ARCA drivers, like, people like that just by sheer coincidence, just because we're in the same spot at the same time. My last suggestion on what you can do to start today is start networking. This doesn't even have to be at the track. It can be online, at your computer. I really recommend using LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gotten me so many opportunities. I've been able to talk to so many cool people just because I've reached out to them on that platform. If you're looking for more in-person opportunities, go to trade shows, go to car meets, things like that. Remember, you're not trying to get a sponsorship at this stage. You're trying to build a relationship. You need to treat sponsorship hunting like dating. You would never marry someone on the first date. So why do you think a company would sponsor you on some first half-assed pitch? A couple more tips. Start going to the gym. I really recommend that. Racing is a very physical sport, and you need to get prepared for it. You also need to start treating yourself like a race car driver. And what I mean by that is, it's a mentality. You are a race car driver. If someone asks you what you do, say you're a race car driver. The point I'm trying to make is, if you're not all in, if you're not serious about this to the point of where you are one, not you're trying to be, but you are one, how do you expect sponsors to want to sponsor you or to be partners with you if you're not 100% all in? So yeah, guys, that's about all I had for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and, you know, just remember, love yourself. Bye-bye.